Okay, good evening, everyone. Obviously, starting off with the tefillah, that there should be safety in Eretz Yisrael and sort of worrying times, that's all. Also, just on a technical note, there will still be learning on Sunday, which is Shem Gedalia, and Tuesday. That's the plan. Okay, so we're in the Mishna and Gemara on Kuf Chaf Hei, on Medalef Kuf Chaf Hei, on the base. I think I finished off the last share. I don't want to go back to this now. Just an interest in moving forward. In which I argued that the correct reading of Tosfos is that Rav Asi and Tosfos' explanation of why the Gemara thinks Rav Asi is L'Tamayu is consistent, is because he holds that all you really need to take something useless and a non-keli like an HaEven and make it muchen is machshava, as long as there's no impediment to that, as long as there's nothing that makes that objectionable, that gets in the way of that, and therefore that's the lomdus of what otherwise sounds like a bit of a wishy-washy machlokas. Do you need an insignificant preparation or significant preparation? The concept really that lies behind it is that Rav Asi holds you need no preparation. All you need is intentionality. But obviously, if there's something that gets in the way, that has to be sorted out. That's the sort of way of understanding how Tosfos is classifying things. I then mentioned briefly, but I don't think we have to look at this inside, the Ritva, and the Rabbeinu Chananel, who discuss the Tzu'uva V'chishvu, Tzu'uva Lomdom. Tzu'uva Chishvu, Rabbi Yochanan says Tzu'uva Chishvu. I hope I printed that in the sheets. Number 3, Chidush HaRitva, yeah. So the Ritva, I didn't print anything else, I'll just put the Ritva. So the Chishvu Kadesh Share, Neshav and Nalacha, Perish, Neshav and Nuchan, Talton, and so Yeshiva attack, and we'll come to that later. The Hadaka Amas to V'chishvu, B'shum the Machshava le Mahanya, Ela ShebeKiruya is the Yafa, Shein Ruyas the Yeshiva. Machshava only helps when you see them, and you see that they're royally Yeshiva. So you have to somehow have, you can't do a Machshava on something. He's not saying a magical rule that you have to see it. He's saying you can't do a machshava on something if you don't know that it's potentially suitable. Otherwise, it's just airy fairy. It's pie in the sky. It's got no significance. If you see that it's suitable, then that's a serious machshava. If you haven't checked that it's suitable, that's a joke machshava. That's not called hachana. If someone says I'm making every HaEven in the world, let's solve the whole of Muktza, right? So I'm making every HaEven in the world for any possible uses I have. That's a joke. There has to be some significance to it. That's the lomdus of the Ritva. I don't want to dwell on the next point that I'm going to say, other than just briefly to mention the premise that lies behind the whole Gemara is that you have to do all of this on Erev Shabbos, right? In other words, on Shabbos itself, you can't have any of these thoughts. Now, I just want to slot that in to earlier conversations that we touched upon. We never looked at this in detail, and to later conversations that if we carry on Muktza, we'll probably get to again, which is there is really a conceptual machlokas between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda about whether things can alter their Muktza status on Shabbos. And Rabbi Shimon, who we paskin like, is of the opinion that even though, first let's step back a bit, that the essence of Muktza is that something can only become muchen before Shabbos. The status at the start of Shabbos, migud is kotzai ben hashmoshes, is kotzai lepliyom. Something that's muktzah at the start of Shabbos remains muktzah the whole of Shabbos. However, Rabbi Shimon has a concept of yoshev v'matzapeh, that if you know something is going to become useful on Shabbos, even though you're muktzah midatcha, even though it's muktzah from before Shabbos, but if you know it's going to become prepared, ready on Shabbos, then it can cease to be muktzah on Shabbos because you're yoshev v'matzapeh, you're waiting for something to become useful. A modern example of this is if you've got washing on the heater, where you know that an hour into Shabbos it's going to be dry, or 3 hours into Shabbos it's going to be dry. Even though wet washing is a classic muktzah, it's useless. Nonetheless, since you know that inevitably it will become muchen on Shabbos, then that wouldn't be muktzah. Or when it ceases to be wet on Shabbos, it would cease to be muktzah. That's yoshev v'matzapeh. You're waiting and anticipating. Now no, you leave it on before Shabbos. You have washing hanging before Shabbos. So, and you know it's going to dry on Shabbos, then that's Yeshiva-style. Yeah. So that's the concept of Yeshiva-style. Here, the premise of our sugya is that even though a stone is perfectly useful to cover a chovis with, or a pile of stones is perfectly useful to sit on, nonetheless, you're not Yeshiva-style. In other words, I'm belaboring this point a little bit because you could argue that this is Yeshiva-style. There's nothing lacking in this stone's preparedness to be a pot lid, a barrel lid, or the stone's preparedness to be a seat. So why shouldn't it cease to be Muktza on Shabbos if I now wish to use it as a chair or a stone lid on Shabbos? If Rabbi Shimon is open to the possibility that things can be Yeshiva-style, and the answer is because you're not Yeshiva-style because it's not a kli, it's nothing. Yeshiva-style is a concept where you have something as a kli and there's an impediment. You've got clothes but they're wet. You've got a chitzor kiss, and now on Shabbos you change your mind about its value or something like that. It's a kli, it's your slave. It's omed for your shamshus, but there's a block which makes it not muchen. But a stone, the whole point of a stone is not omed for shamshus, it's just a stone. A stone is rubble. This stone you now decide you want to use, that would be considered an innovation in preparedness for Shabbos, and therefore that's why hachana has to take place before Shabbos. That's the premise of the sugya. Yeah.
Should I say that Yeshiva-style also works for oil that's being burned?
Yes, that's where we met Yeshiva-style, the case of the burning oil. Yeah. No, but it's a food item or utilitarian item. It's only made for the shamshus of the person. Sorry, yeah, fair point. Oil is food. Oil are there to be consumables. Yeah.
If you had a pot in a kiln, which was half, whatever the word is, half baked, when Shabbos came in, the kiln is on a time switch, and will turn itself off in 2 hours. The pot then becomes complete. That seems to be a tricky example of potentially Yeshiva-style. It's not like the clothing, because the pot isn't a viable kli when Shabbat starts, but it will become a viable kli in the hour after Shabbat starts.
Right. I don't know. So it's a good question, because there it's inevitably going to become a kli, but it's not a kli now at the moment now. So it's a finely asked question. Yeah. If it may be no lad. Yeah. It may be that the whole concept doesn't apply because there's nothing there at all. So it's not, there's nothing in existence at all, and it's coming into existence. Yeah. Good question, good answer. Good. Yeah. Okay. The sugya of in this little brief comment, I've really summarized what's touching again on what's really a very, very complicated matter of nolad and of a Yeshiva-style, and when things can and can't change their status on Yom Tov. But I just wanted to bring this out as sort of another Maramokum, which is that the concept of Yeshiva-style is ignored by the Gemara. The Gemara's the premise, the axiom of the sugya is that you need preparation before Shabbos, and the reason for that axiom is because this is a stone; it's just rubble. It's got no. It's true that, like the flick of a switch, with just a machshava, you can make it into something. You can plan to use it, but nonetheless, in the meantime, till you have that machshava, it's just a piece of rubble. That's the premise of the Gemara. Yeah.
Not only Yeshiva-style,
Yeah.
The Mishna seems to say that your machshava that you need to have is that I want to use it on Shabbos, rather than just I want to use it. So by converting something, I could say on Tuesday that I want to use it as a chair on Wednesday, and that wouldn't be enough. It seems to be that you want to use it as a chair on Shabbos.
Which Mishnah are you quoting? We discussed this idea of on Shabbos. We discussed it in the negative, that you only want to use it for Shabbos. I'm just wondering which Mishnah you're quoting from.
I am quoting from
how he's saying it. I want to see it inside, yeah. Okay, Steve Cotton.
Page 1, the last one.
Let's look at this in context. Let's look at Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't want to rush to comment because I had glossed over this Mishnah Berurah. So he's bringing a machlokas opposing basically. The Mechaber says even b'chol, and the Eli Rabba is saying only with specific intention to do so on Shabbos. I mean, you can hear that debate. Because again, we're dealing with a very fragile achana over here. Because it's a stone, it's a piece of rubble. There's nothing that distinguishes this stone from any other than my plans. That's what this sugya is about. This sugya is different to other sugyas. Other sugyas are sugyas of kalim. Here it's a sugya of a non-kali. It's just a rubbishy stone. There's nothing to it.
But why should changing that status depend on when you want to use it?
Isn't all the tickets happening on Erev Shabbat though? This isn't all about thinking about on Tuesday. It's all about Erev Shabbat. The whole thing.
No, but the Eli Rabba, again, I'm commenting a little bit on something I glossed over, so I don't want to tie myself too far with this. But Jeffrey's pointing out that Eli Rabba says that if I think on Wednesday that I'm going to be using it for yeshiva, the Shulchan Aruch says.
It's all about Erev Odd Yom. It's all about Odd Yom. It's all about time.
No, Leisha Mebod Yom, Afilu B'chol. What does Afilu B'chol mean? Yeah, he's
on Sunday.
That wouldn't be enough. Yeah, or on the Friday, you think you might use it Friday afternoon. That also wouldn't be enough. So what would be the svara? Because the point is that very language you used isn't really accurate. You said why? Why would you have to plan using Shav? If you've changed the status, you've changed the status. The answer is you haven't changed the status of the object. The object remains a stone. It's the same coarse piece of rubbish. The point is that I am planning to use it. The question is, when am I planning to use it? If I'm planning to use it on Shabbos, okay, it's Mukham for Shabbos. I'm not planning to use it on Shabbos, it's not Mukham for Shabbos. It's again bringing out the same point over here.
Use it not as a set.
I want to use it, but there's nothing that's objectively changing about it. Normally, if I take something, I'm making this into a keli. Here, there's nothing. There's nothing that changes in it. It's just a stone, and I'm going to discard it tomorrow. It's just another stone. There's nothing that distinguishes it from 1,000 other stones in my garden. I'm not making it into a keli. I am planning to use it. That's the name of our sugya. Subjective, I'm planning to use it, rather than objective, redefining it.
Isn't it a matter of hachana? Hachana. So the hachana is only relevant to Shabbat.
That's true, but normally, if I've made something into a keli, it doesn't matter whether I'm planning to use it on Shabbos or not. I make a plate on a Wednesday. I don't know if I'm going to use this plate on Shabbos or not. In fact, I'm planning not to use the plate on Shabbos because it's a low-quality plate, and I want to use my better crockery for Shabbos. And then Shabbos afternoon, I'll change my mind. Is the plate Muktza or not? The answer is it's not Muktza, it's a keli. But here, the whole point is it's not a keli. It's just my subjective engagement with it. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, so it's branches.
Is different.
It makes it like a stone for like a copper barrel.
It's aval. They're different.
The back value is not the same as a normal stone.
I agree with you, Kal V'chomer. That even the chorios, he's saying, the achana has to be for Shabbos, and I agree with you, Kal V'chomer, the stones. But Sif Kaf is a piece of rubbish that has nothing interfering with my machshava, aka chorios shel dakel. And Sif Kaf Aleph is a piece of rubbish that has something interfering in its achana, and therefore I need limdum, I have to arrange them. But in either case, in principle, they're the same lomtus, which is my machshava is enough. Yeah. But I agree with your Kal V'chomer. If even dekel needs hachana for Shabbos, Kal V'chomer then Adach Shel Levanim needs hachana for Shabbos. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. let's just use the last few minutes remaining to talk about what actually, and we've touched on this before, I think on Chuf Chaf Daled Amud Aleph. What is the Issa of Muktza? Is the Issa of Muktza tiltal, which means moving things? Or is the Issa of Muktza using things, or benefiting from things, or burning things, or eating things? What's the Issa of Muktza? So our Gemara on face value seems to say that were it not for the Hachana, you would not be able to sit on this pile of stones, which seems to imply that you cannot sit on Muktza even if you don't move it. That's seemingly what the Gemara is saying, which is a bit chiddush. I thought Muktza was an Issa tiltal, you're not allowed to take it. The Gemara seems to be saying that Issa Muktza is even sitting on Muktza. Rashi, in a difficult Rashi to read because of the Girsa issue, Rashi says, Tzu v'lomdum, sidru oisam, v'hishivam, kedei she'lo yitzarich liga b'hem l'macha, in order that you shouldn't have to touch them tomorrow. V'yishein azmana b'maisa, or ein azmana b'maisa koldu, ein azmana b'maisa chashuv, ma'eles le'even asaysa kli. So Rashi says that the Issa, if you're not limdum, the point isn't that the limdum is the hachana. The point is the limdum stops you needing to move them on Shabbos. Because if they're Muktza, you wouldn't be able to move them on Shabbos. That's how Rashi reads the Gemara. Does everyone agree with that? Okay, so Rashi is learning that the limdum is a solution to avoid you moving them, but they want to sort them out so that on Shabbos you can sit on them without having to move them. Translation, Rashi learns that Muktza only means moving, but sitting without moving would be fine even if they're Muktza. That's what we see in Rashi. Agav, we saw the same in Rashi earlier when it came to Hasaka, where again Rashi said the problem was not the Hasaka, the burning in and of in itself. The problem was the moving it around in order to get the wood sort of sorted. Again, I think the same idea that the sitting is not a problem, the moving is a problem. That seems to be Rashi's view. Liga, by the way, in Rashi, seems a little bit of an unfortunate turn of phrase. Because Liga, normally Nakia means touch. Touch is mutter. You can touch Muktza. No one thinks you can't touch Muktza. But in the context, it's clear what Rashi means, which is the movement is the problem. You know, it's a difficult Rashi. There's a number of cases used with Rashi and so on. But either way, that's what Rashi says. You're looking.
Is that the way Maharsha understands Rashi? The fact that they said, look, HaEven implies, no, you're not allowed to touch them. It sounds like to me the Maharsha takes Rashi literally. No, you wouldn't be able to touch them. Like, you can't tell.
No, I think the Maharsha means move them. And I think that's what he's saying, that if you
Why did Rashi not use the word tiltal?
I don't know. It's a problematically phrased Rashi. But you see in Rashi that the sitting in and of in itself, if you were Sidron, wouldn't be a problem. Is that?
It's impossible to sit on them without touching them.
Yeah.
But touching could be a different type of engagement. Touching could be like sitting on them is a very different engagement to using my hand. More passive.
So we'll see later. It could be that in the act of sitting, you're also moving things. And then you're right, that movement may be a lesser degree of movement than moving with your hands. In fact, we have a name for that, total minatat. But the point is that according to Rashi, the movement is the problem, not the sitting in and of in itself. The use isn't the problem, the movement is the problem.
But in terms of sitting on rocks and boulders, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Clearly, sitting on a large immovable boulder, there's no possibility of moving it. However, you could sit on a rock that's 2 feet in diameter, which is certainly movable. And I think that's possibly where some of the tension in the Psak is, whether it's it's a rock that could potentially be movable and therefore. You're moving
You're correct, but I want to I want to, in concept, move away from that. I'm just a thought in principle. Is the Issa of Muktza movement linked, or is the Issa of Muktza even use? So let's take two scenarios. Let's take a scenario of a rock that you could sit on without any movement whatsoever. Is nonetheless the sitting on it a problem? Now, you're right, there are middle levels in which through sitting you're moving, and then we would have to analyze the nature of that movement, whether it's a problematic movement or not.
It's only a problem because it could be that whichever of Paskins that it is a problem is saying, well, I don't want you to sit on any rock, because if you can sit on a boulder, you can also sit on a 2-foot diameter rock that's movable. So
okay, that would be making a new Gezerah. I'm not going to go down that path of what would be the source in the Gemara of a new. If in principle yeshiva is mutter and movement is asa, then I would be surprised to find someone saying there is a Me'iri who says I advise you not to sit on boulders because you could come to move it. But to say that it's asa to sit on a boulder if it's mutter to sit and the whole problem is movement, that would be difficult because you can sit on something immovable and you can't. So again, in concept, we have two positions. Position number one is that sitting, irrespective of movement, in and of in itself is a problem. Position number two is the only problem is movement. And then we could analyze what happens if you have a sitting that also causes a movement.
So when I first heard it said that sitting on a rock was a problem, I was surprised because I thought Muktza was about movement.
Right, yes, and you're right. And Rashi shares your surprise. More than that, Rashi isn't surprised. Rashi says Muktza is only about movement, and sitting in an abstract, pure sitting wouldn't be a problem. I'm not pushing you off because there are those that begin going down the path you're saying. But just in order for us to keep to be masadeh the sugya, one possibility is that only movement is a problem. The other possibility is that sitting in and of in itself is a problem. The may la halacha will be even if you hold that sitting is not a problem. You may la halacha still have caution around sitting because of movement, but that's because the movement is the problem. So in Rashi, I think we have Rashi fairly strongly in the camp of those that say that movement is not only movement is a problem, but sitting is not a problem. I printed the Rambam because the Rambam, the Pashtus, is in the opposite camp. I hope I printed the Rambam. Did I print the Rambam? Oh, yes, I did. Baruch Hashem. In source 6, Nadvach shel avodim shechoshav alav mibayid yaim im limdum mutaleshev aleim lemacha v'im lav osa. Are you with me here? I didn't give you a 6. Oh my goodness, did I update the source sheet without updating anyone else's? Okay, so we've come to 38, so it's a convenient point to stop. I will send you an updated source sheet for Sunday, and Mitzvah Hashem will carry this on. And we're going to look at the Rambam. And for those who want to do Chazorah, we've really spoken about this already in when we looked at Hasaka of firewood on, what was that, Kuf Chaf Daled. So that's where you can do Chazorah, and I will send you an updated source sheet with the Rambam on. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Gemara Chasimot over to everyone. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Okay.